how much you could just change your life in 50 days or 30 days or whatever. Like, if I didn't just stick to it, like, it shows what just like commitment to anything can do.
Hello and welcome to episode 109 of Webflail. I'm your host, Jack, your failure connoisseur, and today my guest is Maya Chungbin. She is a freelance illustrator and visual identity designer. It goes under the name of SaltyStill. So if you're on Twitter, you might have seen at SaltyStill put up some mad visuals. She's been doing this daily challenge. That's where I started to do the daily challenge because I was like, this is so cool. She's doing a daily challenge, getting loads and loads of conversations started about her work. I want to do the same thing. And I messaged her and said, hey, Maya, I want to do the same thing. And she was like, go for it. And that's how we connected. In 2019, she started on Fiverr, made the SaltyStill account, tossed up some work, as she put on her LinkedIn bio. She's worked with over 1,000 clients on things like storefronts, websites, packaging, maybe even your nighttime read. But get this, guys. She's working with small companies, helping them transform their dreams into reality through effective branding. And she's really leaned into her weirdness. At the bottom of her website, she says, have a good and weird day, ! Love that. In the bio of her Twitter, you might see that she's also a professional rock collector and metalsmith. And yes, that is a joke, but it's funny. The failures that we'll discuss today are: 1, thinking she needed to know more to get started. 2, not doing internal check-ins and burning out. And 3, expecting an outcome and taking things too seriously. Maya, welcome to the Webflower podcast.
Thank you. It's crazy hearing the synopsis like that all at once. Thank you so much for having me.
It must be kind of random, like being told about you to you, just sat there. I've never really thought about that, but yeah, it's probably quite weird.
It feels kind of
But
good.
tell me, what is your relationship with failure? What's the crack?
I've been thinking about it. I've been failing a lot recently, I feel like, and I think it's okay. It's shaky, and I think I'm a bit of a drama queen when it comes to failure. I like get really flustered when something isn't going my way, and I'm like one to say, oh my God, I'm going to throw my hands up and I'm never going to do it again. But in reality, I always come back to it and I like work through it. And then I'm like, in hindsight, it looks like a tiny bump in the road. But in the moment, I think I'm not very good at dealing with it most of the time.
I think that's kind of life though, isn't it? Like just in the moment, things just have tons of gravitas and weight to them. It's like, oh my God, should I set up a Contra account or not? And actually it's just like, no one gives a fuck. And it's a tiny detail. Or, failures just generally like, hey, stuff goes wrong in the moment, a client's website, they've got a problem with publishing or something, and you've done all this work and you're like, oh my God. And then, actually it's way bigger in your head than it is in reality. And it might be something that you can fix relatively easily, or they're not even that bothered. They're just, and it's like in your head, it's a big deal. How do you manage that kind of tension between knowing that you need to embrace failure in order to grow and learn, but also just trying to keep your nerves as a freelancer and not completely wreck yourself by worrying about every little detail?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question, actually. I don't know. I think I've learned to step away more. I used to just kind of like sit there and be like, well, like maybe if I just bang my head against the wall harder, like it'll like start being easier or something. And I have kind of started like I'll just be like, okay, time to go do something else. Let's like think about something else. Like let's go eat. Let's go for a walk or something, and even just put it down for a few days, and then revisit it. Because even if I'm not like struggling with something, like I think probably like with a lot of design stuff, but with art in particular, people talk about all the time like, I thought it looked so good when I put it down last night and I looked at it today and it's like the ugliest thing I've ever seen. even when it's going well, it can be like that. So I'm like, when I think it looks bad, I can just leave it and then come back, and it's like always better. So that's something I've been trying to do more, but I'm still like banging my head a little bit sometimes. I'm learning still.
Yeah, I think there's sometimes like, and I've been learning this with freelancing as well. Sometimes, if you're not getting clients, for example, you're like, right, I am not going to leave this room until I've sent 100 messages or whatever, and or yeah, I don't know what you do to get clients, but there's
Literally.
things that you might just be like, I just need to do this thing more, right? And actually, maybe you just need to get up and go for a walk, and maybe you'll get a coffee and you'll sit down and you'll start chatting to someone, and they might be like, "Oh, actually, you do brand identity design. Actually, I need a brand." And you're like, "For
Yeah.
fuck's sake! Like, if I just went outside and talked to people more, or like just mixed it up, just mixed
Yeah.
up what you were doing rather than doubling down and being like steadfast in this thing that you're throwing all your energy into, and it's clearly not working. And maybe you need to, I get that sometimes it's like you just need to kind of grind it
Buckle
out or
down.
whatever. But
Yeah.
actually, sometimes I think the opposite is also true. I guess that's really annoying, contradictory advice for anyone that's listening to this episode. But what do you feel about that?
No, I totally agree. I mean, sometimes like I'll just get caught up in like the process of doing something so much where I just forget like what I'm even doing, and I just forget to like think. Like for example, doing the daily challenge, like, and I still struggle with this, but like coming up, churning out ideas every single day, I would like be like, okay, what's the vision? And it's like not coming to me. And I'm like, what? So I would just get so frustrated, like trying to work on a like bad idea I was having, or not a bad idea, but something I wasn't really feeling. And I would just forget to like, where does an idea come from? What like is inspiration? So then like just going and doing something else and giving myself time to actually like think and like have a thought besides like what am I going to draw today, like da da da. I think that like has saved me a lot of time.
Yeah, just giving yourself space. I think
Hmm.
it's like shower thoughts. I don't know if you have this, but
Exactly.
sometimes I've been like
100%.
trying to work out something for the whole day, and I'll get in the shower, and because you're not actively thinking about that thing, your brain
Hmm.
is like working on the problem in the background, I think sometimes, and then it's like, oh, like all I needed to do was have a shower because now I come out of the shower and I can do whatever the thing is that I'm trying to do.
Totally.
Hey, life is a funny one. Hey, it throws you a couple of curvies. Speaking
Hmm.
of the daily challenge, let's just rewind a bit. So you were 5 years ago. You set up your Fiverr account, right? And you were like, okay, I want to earn a bit of extra money on the side. I'm going to do some illustrations for people. Let's see where this goes. Fast forward to now, you've got your own clients, you did this daily challenge that popped off, you've got an Instagram account that is humming, you've got the top post that you've pinned to the top has 328 hearts or likes. Don't know why I'm like my dad here. And then you've got 27,000 impressions. I mean, it's mad how you've kind of gone from Fiverr to building a really strong personal brand in the space and having your own clients that are off these platforms like Fiverr or Upwork and stuff. Can you just
Yeah.
fill in the gaps for me a little bit? I know that that's a really broad question, but what what happened? What happened? What changed for
Oh my
you, and
gosh.
how are you where you are?
Well, okay, so yeah, like everything that's happened over the last 5 years ago. No, but
Yeah,
so
exactly. You've
I
only got 3 minutes to answer, by the way.
um no, but so yeah, I made my Fiverr account initially. I was like I didn't even plan on really selling anything. I was like, what I want to see what's on here. So I just made one, and because you had to log in, and then people started like they saw the little things I uploaded that I had to, and then they were like, oh my gosh, like I want to buy it. And so yeah, I did. It progressively grew, especially through the pandemic. I was like ton of people were looking for like starting their little passion projects and stuff during that time because they were not working. And so I like got flooded with like a ton of orders for like basically a year and a half or like until things opened up again. Um, and I was like, okay, I can make a career of this because at the time I was like doing like a gap year sort of between like when I graduated high school and when I plan on like going back to school. And then I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is it instead. Um, so
So
bless
sorry.
you, bless you. I need to start over now. No, but yeah. In the meantime, though, since then, like I kind of kept humming along at it for a while and um, started to slowly like lose steam with Fiverr. I think like it's the trenches. Like I stuck with it because it was like it was a dream I didn't even know I had or could just do on my own, was just to freelance. I don't know. It just felt so like daunting, and it just kind of started randomly. So I stuck with it for a long time, but yeah, it's like the trenches of design doing that. Like the requests that I would get were like so crazy. And so I did that for a long time, would start doing like, did like Redbubble and kind of things within like a similar sphere, a little bit of Upwork and, selling like prints on Etsy and stuff. Um, and I'll talk about this a little more with one of my failures, but I kind of like quit for a bit because I was like, I just keep it was great to keep doing it, and I was like making good money, and I got to draw all the time, but I was like, this is feeling bleak because I don't know how to like grow doing this. And so I just quit for a while. And I moved to Hawaii, and I like did some, other things in the meantime. And then just started getting back into design and illustration again in like in 2023. I think, yeah, like end of 22, 23. And then yeah, I started like delving into brand design and stuff. And then I was like all in on that actually until I started on Twitter. My partner is a big fan of the podcast, and he was like, you need to you're blushing. He was like, you need to listen to this episode with Erin Fleming. She like, started doing this Twitter challenge and had a lot of success with it. And Twitter was kind of an untapped one for me because Instagram, it was like, I already don't even like posting on Instagram. I was like, this is like way too much chafe to just even upload it. I don't even like using it. So Twitter felt like good for me. And I was like, no one knows me on there. I could just post whatever I want. Um, and I started doing that, and then I ended up, you know, a lot of things happened between then and now too.
Okay, amazing little summary there. Really difficult question. Hey, just tell me about 5 years of your life. And we kind of crossed into some of the failures, which we will dig into more in just a little bit. But it's really crazy to me that you were like, okay, starting on Fiverr, cutting your teeth. Like, can I, deliver the work that these people are asking me to? Can I earn a little bit of money? Can I even realize that this is for me? Oh, wait, it is. And then you started exploring all sorts of different, avenues, from printing like material objects on like Redbubble. Again, I've also tried that. It's a crazy, weird
I
place.
know.
And then, yeah. And then, like putting your work everywhere, and you kind of throwing everything out there. And then
Hmm.
you hit a bit of a wall and needed some time just to sit with that and then find out what your love is, with illustration and where you wanted to go with brand identity design and stuff from there. We'll get into that in the failures. But if anyone's listening to this who's a Webflower that's like just everywhere, they're just kind of like, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be there and I'm just going to do everything for everyone. I do think that is a little bit of a a risk and you kind of fast track to burnout though. Do you think that's kind of fair?
100%. Yeah, I think like I was just like, oh, like I'll just keep like trying more things and like extend myself more and like maybe, like you have to extend yourself and like be seen. No one's going to see you if you aren't around to be seen. So like you got to do it sometimes, but like haphazardly kind of looking for, oh, like maybe this will be the new thing and not really like
Yeah.
throwing yourself into it. I think is like how much you can actually apply yourself to the new thing that you're going to do. I think is like probably the most important thing that I learned.
Yeah. I also think when it feels like a chore, it's probably not a good sign. Like,
Totally.
if you're like, oh God, I got to post on Instagram now, or like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, like this person replied on this platform and I'm over, here, or I don't really care about posting there. And I think it's healthy to be like, okay, I'm going to go few platforms, but consistent rather than
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try and be everywhere for everyone. It's so exhausting
Totally.
trying to be everything for everyone as well. Like you're not an octopus. You got two
Yeah.
arms, two legs. Like just try and be a human. That's my hot take. It's not that hot. I'm pretty sure everyone agrees with that listening, but why don't we all do it? I don't know. Let's just circle back to you then. So now you are living in Paris. Um, I know that not just randomly for anyone that's listening. We talked about this before the episode. I can see from your background. No.
I've been to
So
that
yeah,
cafe.
yeah, exactly. The Eiffel Tower is behind you. No, it's not. Okay, so yeah, you are in Paris. You are traveling around. You are living in probably what a lot of people are listening to. That you're living what is considered like a successful life. You've got the freedom to choose where and when you want to work to a certain extent. You're living in different countries. Do you feel like you have reached the place that Maya wanted to reach from 5 years ago when you joined Fiverr?
Oh my gosh, that's such a sweet question. Yeah, I have. And like it doesn't really feel like that in the moment. I feel like this sort of ties into like, talking about like, oh, failure feels so intense in the moment. Like getting where somewhere you wanted to be too. Also, like, well, I feel like doesn't feel intense. I feel like you don't even notice it. And then you're like looking back and you're like, oh my gosh, like I did it. And I mean, not to say that's like everything but I think that me 5 years ago couldn't have just imagined the things that I've learned at this point. And like, there's still like so much to learn, so much I don't know, so much I haven't done. But I think she would be really proud of it. And I think also, I think a lot about like what would like 12-year-old me, want. And like, this is one of those things. She would be so excited. Like, this is something I've always been interested in and maybe didn't know how to grab. And, there's like things that remain true throughout your character for your whole life or your desires and stuff. And I think this like lifestyle and like, yeah, the lifestyle that freelancing and doing something that I've always loved has afforded me is like, I think all past me's are happy.
Wow. So you've kind of reached success in your head almost, like you've got to the place where you want to get to. And does that, I mean, obviously you're pretty early on in your career and you're already kind of at where you want to be. What is success to you then, like now versus maybe 5 years time? Like, do you have goals that you are pushing for now that you've kind of got to the place where you want to be at now?
Hmm.
Sorry, we're going
Yeah.
super deep here, but I'm just
No,
super
I like
intrigued.
it. No, I like it. I think like success for me, like in the broad scope of my life, is like it pertaining to my career, is it is so much different than how, like, it is a lot better than how it was before. So it definitely feels like success. There are definitely still things that I strive for, but my like At this moment, I think my definition of it is like I feel fulfilled from doing what I'm doing, which is huge. There are moments of everyone's job every day that are like, pulling teeth a little bit, and there are still things like that. But holistically, I get to sit on my iPad and draw, or like, come up with something that's going to help someone and it looks cool. Like, I can't complain too much. And just looking at it like that, and also like, you know, um, thinking about, when I was agonizing over what I was going to do, like for work in my future and stuff, and seeing where I landed, it definitely feels like a success. But some things that I was doing a little course recently, or I'm still doing it, but they were like, fill out like 50 things in this Notion document of like these different range goal setting things. And um, so I had a few. Going on a podcast was one of the things I wanted to accomplish in the next 2 years, and here I am. So that's happy. And but I'm working on putting together like a little agency thing potentially. But I definitely want to kind of create more of like a entity and a home for my work and my business, and have it be a little more defined, because right now it's kind of just like a social media like hub, like where all my work is kind of just on my social media, and that's where I get most of my work from. But I'd like to expand it, and I definitely want to start working more with other people, potentially like working with an agency or something, or definitely have plans to start my own potentially in the next few years. So yeah, just thinking about things like that. But it's things evolve so much. I think sometimes I find it more useful to like think about, or just like stay inspired and work towards something. But if something else inevitably develops that you don't expect, I'll grab that.
Love that answer. Okay, so there's a kind of duality between being grateful for where you're at and enjoying where you're at and just trying to be as present in the moment as possible. And, you know, really like, I guess, look back and appreciate the Maya that's put in all the work to get to the place that you're at now. But then there's also wanting to grow and develop beyond that stage and potentially grow something that's, bigger than yourself, and maybe help the next generation of illustrators and brand identity designers create something beautiful together in an entity called SaltyStill, or whatever you call it. Just think that's important to highlight. Now, okay, if there are Webflowers listening that are like, God damn it, I want to be working from a co-work in Paris and, doing websites all around the world. Hey, I think something to learn from Maya so far in this episode is that you have a lightness about your work. You have a playfulness to what you do. And I think when you take away oh my God, I need to do this because I need to get this client and I need to have this strategic conversation with this person in order to get in front of this person or whatever. Actually, if you just do things that you find fun and show the work, as a result, show the work that you want to get, you actually get the work that you want to do. Isn't that crazy? So I think like there's a kind of sense of, hey, if you're a web designer or a web developer and you particularly like creative web development, or you particularly like 3D, that's me right now, or if you like, some other aspect, play with that. Just play and put that work out there, and you'd be amazed at what can come back from social media if you do that consistently over time. You might get tagged in posts that are like perfect for you because you've shown that work previously. And guess what? Who's the top candidate to do that job? Probably you. And I think, Maya, you are the example of that. Also, Erin Fleming as well, shout out. She also was doing like a daily challenge, which forced her to do that creative work and show the work that she wanted to get. I think daily challenges are great for that. But I just think if you're listening and you're like, how did Maya do what she did? She's literally just given us a blueprint for what success looks like for her. If that blueprint for success resonates for you, all you got to do is follow it, guys. It's like a recipe book. Just follow what you've done. You just have done a lot of work over time consistently that you really enjoy doing, and now you're getting paid to do that work consistently over time that you really enjoy doing. Isn't that amazing? Okay,
So nice.
let's get into the failures. Maya, are you ready?
Yes. Yes.
We've just built you up. Now we're going to knock you down.
I
Tell me about
know.
failure number one.
Ooh.
Thinking you needed to know more to get started.
Yeah. I mean, it's still something I encounter a lot, honestly, despite recognizing it. Um, but like, because I'm still like kind of a baby designer, my career is young and everything, but like making the jump from doing these kind of like, low stakes projects and stuff, and wanting more, but not knowing how to get it, and like looking at, what other people are doing. I think like looking at creatives is like, it's like the popular kids. They know how to do like 1,000 things. And I'm like, you guys are doing like ceramics, like writing books. You're like featured on awards and you're also like a singer. Like how are you doing all that? Like I felt like I needed to know so many more things to like just make the jump that I felt like paralyzed. I felt like it was so hard to like start learning. Like I went from knowing how to like draw the cartoons to like being like, what is it like pitch deck? Like what does that even mean? And having to like do that. And so there were just so many things. I felt it was like kind of insurmountable figuring out how where I was even going to start. And also part of it too was like being like comfortable somewhat in a position, but emotionally uncontent. I think like you get kind of like uh, just like start feeling content or subservient to your situation, and like it can be kind of harder to strive if you feel somewhat comfortable. And so I was like afraid to take the jump and like make put myself around people who were like wait, I was like, oh my God, they're so much better than me at this. Like, how, like, why would I even try? I was afraid to make like the pond bigger,
Okay, beautiful. Afraid to make the pond bigger. I haven't heard that
Mm-hmm.
phrase. But yeah, totally get what you mean. You look at people who are already 10 steps ahead and you're like, what's the point of me even taking one step? What is the point? What am I going to add? What voice do I have? What space can I take up if these people have already taken that space? And I think we have this mindset where it's like, well, if they're doing it, then why would I do it? I need to find my own thing. But I think it's kind of hard to find your own thing without basically starting by just learning from others, like,
Exactly.
copying other people in order to find your own secret sauce. I think it's really, really, it sounds like kind of backwards psychologically, but um, there's this really, really good book called Show Don't Tell, and
Hmm.
he's written Steal Like an Artist. Oh, what's the name of this guy? I'm desperately looking for it now. If
I
you can
know
hear me
that book. I've
typing
heard
away.
that book though. Still like an artist.
Um, oh man, I've just. If you're listening to this, Austin Kleon, I bet there's people listening to that right now that were just like, God, these guys are
Just
such
say
idiots. Just
it.
say it. It's Austin Kleon. It's Austin. Oh my God. I don't know why I need to do that silly voice, but yeah, Austin Kleon talks about this. Steal Like an Artist. He talks about how there's all these famous bands that basically need to find their own secret sauce by basically doing bad covers of other people until they realize what their own cover is, like what their own sound of their own music is, right?
Mm-hmm.
um and like, I think the whole concept of the book is that essentially everything is a remix. Like, we are building upon what came before us, and there's a beautiful thing in that. Like, we're nothing is truly original. We're all taking different parts of different aspects of our lives and other people's lives to make what we make authentic and original. But it takes that first step of like, just make until you can make something good. Like, you're going to make a lot of shit, a shitload of shit, until you actually make something that's good. And as long as you can kind of appreciate that and just accept that and be like, okay, I've just got to make until I make good, then you're kind of well on the way. And then you'll look back and be like, that's hilarious. People are now copying my work. When I was basically, but I think the key is to look at tons and tons of different references. If you're a web designer, don't just look at web design. Look at, magazine design, or go to museums or whatever. And if you're someone like Maya, maybe like look at, I don't know, Renaissance art or whatever. Like, you could have so many different references that you can bring into your own thing, but then it becomes your own thing as a result of remixing from loads of different ingredients. I don't know. What do you feel about that, Maya?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, it's like something I was like reflecting on, like, was in like, getting ready to talk about that. I was like, you don't want to do something that, like, if someone's already doing it and you're like, well, damn, why would I even bother? You don't want to do it so that you do it exactly the way that they did it and, be them, like, you want to be you doing the thing. And like, personally, the things that I would look at and feel that way, like, I wouldn't even do those things. I wouldn't have even chosen that. I think it's really cool that people are doing those things, but that's them, and I think like every person like brings their own like holistic kind of view of everything into whatever their little niche is, like designing, like web design, or illustration, like copywriting, whatever. Like, you do it the way that you do it, and that is like the entire point. That's something that took a long time to learn, and like, yeah, and like just getting inspired enough to doing that. I like what you said about like copying, because like, when I started drawing, and like, I mean, I always drew, but starting to take it more seriously and trying to improve, like, there were so many like illustrators that I looked up to, and I would just like find pictures on Pinterest, and then like I was like 14 or 15, draw them, trying to be exactly perfect. And I didn't have an iPad, so at that point I was doing it analog on paper, but trying to make it so perfect, and then hang it up on my wall and just keep basically like printing. And then eventually I'm like, ooh, I like the way that they did this, and I like the way this other person did this, so like, let's put it together. And then developing, somewhat of your own style with whatever you're doing is like, you know, you are the people that you love. It just all together.
Yeah, we're the sum of our relationships. I
Mm-hmm.
think that this idea, though, is it's important to emphasize the remixing from multiple different sources thing, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and actually, to illustrate this point, I absolutely loved this collective of designers, this website that I found, and actually the second I've like rebranded Webflail loads because I get bored, but I basically had this like dark green version of the website at one point, and it was so similar to this guy's website. It was way too similar. I basically used that as like the majority of the inspiration, probably 80% of the inspiration for Webflower, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me out. He messaged me and he said, "Hey," like, he sent me this angry email. And he must have seen it because actually it got put on, I don't know, one of these Lapa Ninja or whatever. And he sent me this message and he was just furious. And he was like, "I cannot believe you ripped off my website. You've used the same colors and da da da." And I replied and I was like, "I'm really sorry. Yeah, I did use your website heavily for inspiration. I thought I'd remixed it enough for it to be original. It's clearly not. And I'm going to rebrand it and I'll let you know when I've rebranded it, because I feel awful." And he replied and he was
Dang.
like, "Jack, I wasn't actually expecting anyone to reply to this. And thanks for replying. But we got into this whole creative thing because we want to make stuff our own. And so don't just flip someone else's shit. Like, use loads of different resources and bring them into your own work to make it richer and more flavorful, just like
Mm-hmm.
you'd use, loads of ingredients to make an amazing sauce or whatever. I don't know." And And it was a really good lesson and then I rebranded it and I
Totally.
sent him a message and I said, hey man, I really appreciate you being understanding, giving me time to do this rebrand. I'm really sorry that, you feel like I've ripped off your work. Won't happen again. And I guess what I'm trying to say with this story is that at the start, when you're not very good and you find something you love and you're just like, God damn it, I want to be as good as that person, you accidentally try and be that person to such an extent that you
Mm-hmm.
don't bring anything new to the table creatively. And
Totally.
you can try, it's kind of weird because you're like, I fucking love you. And they're like, what the hell? And I'm like, oh shit, I've gone too far. It's like someone that you're obsessed with and you accidentally stalk them online, and then it's like, oh god, this is not cool. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, as much as it's really healthy to steal like an artist, the emphasis is the like an artist is it's not just steal full
Mm-hmm.
stop. It's make sure that you have enough different influences to actually remix and make something your own, and yeah, find your own voice through that process, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be hard to like start, yeah, as you said, you get like obsessed with like one person or one style and the way that they do things, and you're like, oh, like this is exactly what I've been looking for and wanting to make, like I'm just gonna like redo it. But then it's hard to come up with your own ideas when what you wanted to make or what you think you wanted to make is like right in front of you. It's like
Yeah,
I'll like
and it's
round
so
the corners a
easy,
little more, it'll be different, like it's
right?
super
Like,
hard, like
yeah, I mean, like, think about, I don't know if you've seen Dennis Snellenberg's like copycat website, but he's
mm-mm.
basically got, so this guy Dennis Snellenberg, he's incredible designer, developer, and he basically made this portfolio that everyone loved. It was beautiful, clean, crazy beautiful animations and interactions, and he's created like a copy Dennis website which has all the different people that have copied his freelance website. It's nuts. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that's obviously the extreme end of someone that's done something so good that so many people are inspired by, but kind of go about it in the way I did, with this collective of freelancers that I just kind of used for my own end. And yeah, it's just a balance, isn't it? It's like, be inspired, look at people that are better than you and learn from what they've done. But yeah, over time you'll bring in enough influences and you'll have enough tools in your toolkit to actually make something completely different and new by virtue of your own exploration. So yeah,
Absolutely.
but coming back to the original point that you make, thinking you needed to know more to get started, you're not going to know more unless you get started. Take that first
Exactly.
step.
I
Just
know.
start. And then, you will look back and be like, God, I was such an idiot for stalling as many years as I did. Tell me about failure number 2, not doing internal check ins and burning out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so like I I feel like let me fix my headphones. Um I feel like coming off of um just like working so much during the pandemic and stuff, and working on Fiverr and all of that. I was working like 10-hour days a lot of the time and just drawing and drawing and drawing, and I didn't want to stop because I was like, I don't want like my rating to go down and then I don't make any more money and da da da. And this is something that I've, continued to relive throughout periods of my career, like besides that. It's like you don't want to, as a freelancer, you have to put the like filter on it and say, okay, I have enough work now, I need to be done. And it's really hard to do that, like, and make that cutoff because you want to keep like taking on projects and like making money, doing more things, and so I've definitely like overworked myself multiple times. I think everyone has. But after Fiverr in particular, and just like years of that cycle, I just like I just kind of quit. I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't know like where I'm going with this, and I think I just like need to be done for a while. And I I had always worked in like restaurants and stuff before. And so I like went back to that. I was like, this is the only thing I've nurtured so far, is like, my career doing like illustration and design and stuff. And like, I'm like too tired to do this, keep doing this right now. And so I went back to working at restaurants, being a waitress. And I was like a bottle girl and stuff for a while, and kind of totally like lost touch of what I was doing there. And then eventually, like this goes back into what you were saying about like drawing inspiration from like more parts of life. I started like drawing again. I was like, after I'd been like, I was working as a bottle girl for a while, and I like was like, you know what, I want to draw. And I like started making things that I would have never made before, just because of the environment that I was in. And it was like, once I took that step away, I was able to come back and like kind of reinvigorate my like
That
view
part of
of
you.
it. But it took like such a complete, like it was like a year and a half, like 2 years, where I was like, I don't even want to think about this shit. Like I don't want to do it. And like it was stressful to think about what I was going to do instead. So I was like, I'm just going to like, I could just, make money and like serve. It's fine. But I ended up finding my way back to it through like that break, which is like more, pressure behind the sentiment of like, just take a step away and like look at it, think about it more.
Yeah, and have that perspective that you maybe lacked. You
Mm-hmm.
talked about not doing internal check-ins. What, like, if
Mm-hmm.
someone's like, what does that actually mean? Can you just explain that for people?
Totally. I think like how I mean is like, I wouldn't sit with myself and think about, um, I wouldn't think about the whole like tale, like we were talking about how you can like see it all in the past, and like see the steps that you've gone through, and like see where you are now. I wouldn't like check in with myself and see if what I was doing was aligning with the future that I wanted to work towards. um and so I would just kind of stay in place, like linger where I didn't need to be longer than I had to, or in the wrong place, or not like pursue the right thing just because I wasn't like aligning what I was doing with what I wanted, you know?
Totally, that makes a lot of sense. I think like sometimes we do more than we think about the doing. Like we
Mm-hmm.
kind of just are like, we're like a little hamster, just like that's me being a hamster. If you're listening on Spotify, and yeah, I think we're it's good to just get out of the cage and be like, okay, how are we doing? How are we feeling? What what's
Mm-hmm.
going on? Um, Therapy is great for this. If you guys are fortunate enough to have a therapist, that's a really good way of doing it. Sometimes if you do this with your partner or significant other or family or whatever, you might kind of overload them. Is what I found.
Mm-hmm.
You might just trauma dump is a thing I've been accused of in the past. So I definitely think it's worth having a therapist or finding someone that you can talk to who's objective about that type of thing. Just to do that kind of check in. It's like a forced check in each week. It's like, how are you doing? And you're
Totally.
like, yeah, I'm fine. And they're like, now how are you doing? And you're like, you're like, you just kind of have a little moment. Um, I'm not saying
Absolutely.
that I cry in every therapy session, just occasionally, but
Half.
yeah, just half, just most. I didn't cry last week though, but yeah, no, I think it's healthy to do that if possible, just to kind of check in with yourself. And I think also, I don't know if you've found this helpful, Maya, but just like writing down, like, what is going on? Where are you at? what projects are you working on currently? What's going well in your life? What's not going well? Is there
Hmm.
an overlap between what's going well in work and the relationships that you're in and how those things correlate, and what does that mean? Or like, maybe work's not going well and it's because you're not looking
Hmm.
after your health outside of work. Maybe you're actually doing too much work or too much effort to try and get work, and actually you're not going to the gym or like eating right, and actually that's affecting your mental health massively, and as a result how you show up for yourself. And it's just
Yeah,
like kind of teasing out those different threads to understand where you're at, I guess, is
totally.
is healthy to try and do, especially as a freelancer, because you need to do that for yourself. You are literally the business. You are the
Yeah,
physical embodiment of your business, and it's like you need to look after yourself. So yeah, sorry, I kind of
totally.
jumped on what you said and just added loads of random stuff, but do you resonate with those ideas?
100%. Yeah. Like I kept thinking like during the summer, so I started Twitter in the end of April. So I actually just had my 6 month anniversary. But I started Twitter at the end of April, and then by like the end of summer to midsummer, I had had a constant ramp up in the amount of work that I had, and it was like at a peak, and it had gone from like, and I mean, I was like so excited because I was so excited about all these illustration gigs that I was getting, and about the work I was doing and the people I was meeting. I was like, I don't want to turn anyone away. Like I'm having so much fun doing this, and it's like it had totally like reinvigorated my spirit with it. But yeah, like towards the middle and end of the summer, I was like, hold on, like this is, I spoke with you about this. I was like, you're like, have you gotten any work from like your Twitter challenge? And I was like, yeah, I have like 8 active clients right now. And I was like, I'm gonna die. Like I was so busy. And I was just like realizing that I think the quality of like my work and my ability to like communicate with my clients and like also uphold my like my platform on Twitter and keep posting every day and all of that, like the capacity was just too much, and I was losing inspiration because I was like not having time to do any other things. I would, cook for myself, and like it was summer, so I would like maybe like spend like an hour or two at the beach or something and then like be done. Like I had like dropped my inadvertently, I like dropped my hobbies, and I had like not hung out with anybody besides my partner in like weeks, just because I was like so like in the zone with work that I wasn't even noticing that like it was becoming more like laborious the more that I focused on it. Like, even though I wanted to focus on it, I was just like so deep into one wormhole that I was like, it was becoming unpleasant because I couldn't nurture other parts. So the work was getting harder too, you know?
Mm. Mm. I love that. Love that idea of like, yeah, it's like a, if you imagine your life as a garden, you've got kind of different ecosystems. You might have a pond, you might have a little veg patch going, you might have a shed. All of these things need upkeep in order for all of the rest of the parts to thrive. And I think
Mm,
vice versa in your life, you've got, mental health, physical health, you've got your relationships, and work is just one of those quadrants, if that's the right word, maybe, or just, sections of your life, and that all of those things kind of cultivate each other and help each other thrive. So, yeah, it's like what we
totally.
talked about at the start. If you laser focus on one thing too much, you might actually be energetically pushing that thing away to a certain extent. I know this. Okay, I can see people that listen to this podcast rolling their eyes right now. I've been called out on my woo woo ness in this podcast. So I just want to say to all you eye rollers, I know who you are. You know who you are. I just want to say that maybe if you're rolling your eyes and you're thinking, yeah, Maya and Jack, this is all a bit woo woo, just try it. Just try it out. Maybe write down what's going well for you, what's not going well for you. There's a little practical thing for all you woo woo thinkers, right? Or think that I'm just talking absolute BS. Maybe there's something in it. I don't know. Works for me and Maya. Maybe it will work for you too. Okay, tell me about failure number 3, expecting an outcome and taking things too seriously.
Ooh, okay. This one stemmed from the Twitter challenge. I like set out doing the challenge so that I could like hone my design skills. I was like, I'm getting a lot better at this thing. I was like, I wanted to, I was like doing brand design already. I was like, I want to get better. I want to learn like more things. I was like, maybe I want to do like 3D or learn just like more skills around it. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna like burrow into design. I'm gonna do this design challenge, not an illustration challenge, a design challenge, and I'm gonna get better. And I said 50 days. And then I did it for like maybe like 3 days without doing any illustrations of like making a new thing every day. And then by like day 4 or 5, I was like, damn, like I'm kind of running out of ideas. Like maybe I'll just like because I was doing, I think, like landing pages, like little mock-ups, like things like that, like packaging and stuff. And I was like, maybe I'll just like put a little illustration on one, like it's okay, just to like spice it up a little bit. And then like not like I was getting a lot of eyes on the work at that point by any means, but like people were like, "Ooh, like I really like the little illustration," and that was like what the focus went to. And then so I was like, I have like 4 followers. If it makes them happy to see a little picture, like I'm gonna keep drawing a little picture. And so I kept just doing the illustrations, and eventually it turned into like only that. I was like, it wasn't a design challenge anymore; it was an illustration challenge, and like I fully went in like full circle kind of back into illustration because like I had when I was a like initially when I was a working on Fiverr, I was like a logo designer, but it was a lot of like kind of like cartoony, more illustrative logos anyway. So I was basically just doing illustration, but I was like, I'm a graphic designer, right? Because I'm doing logos. So people are like, you're a graphic designer. So I was like really clinging to that title and trying to get better at like being a graphic designer or just being a designer. Um, and then like once I kind of saw how things were progressing, I was like, okay, like let's just let it go and like do the illustration. And it was easy to follow that because people were like, I love these. So like it felt really good to keep doing it. Um, but yeah, like letting go of the preconceived notion I had about doing it and just letting it occur naturally was amazing. Like it went a completely different way than I would have expected. And it also was like such a cool testament too, just a thought on the challenge, like how much you could just change your life in 50 days or 30 days or whatever. Like if I didn't just stick to it, like it shows what just like commitment to anything can do. And usually the result of whatever you're working for, I feel like isn't even what you intended. The thing that you get out of it is often not why you even set out to do it because you don't like have that gap to fill anymore and like a desire to do it once you already have it and you've gained something else too. So I think that was a really cool like takeaway from it. But yeah, I definitely like I was trying to be serious. I was trying to be like professional also. I was like I need to perform at this level and like be in the room with these people who like talk this way, and I felt like I couldn't just like with my first few clients it was like I feel like we would just go in circles like talking about things, and I'm like I was too afraid to just be honest and be like, okay, but like do you like it, like what do you actually think, like let's like communicate clearly for a second and not like just like say things that take up a 30-minute meeting and then we meet again in 2 days. I was just afraid to be blunt and like act like myself as well. Yeah.
Can I just
That was a
jump in
spiel.
and no, it was a good spiel though. A few things that I just want to highlight and just say back to you just to check. So, first thing that you talked about saying there was that essentially you did this challenge, you committed to it, but people liked a particular thing that you were like, "Oh, okay, I'll just keep doing that." And then you just kind of lost yourself trying to please others, it sounded like. Whereas when you kind of just made what you wanted to make and just organically made it, the ideas flowed and everything just flowed a lot easier. And then when you talked about like finding your own voice and making sure that you were authentically being you, which I think is kind of linked to the first point, like in
Hmm.
client conversations, making sure that you were just direct, upfront Maya that you normally are, rather than trying to be this professional version of yourself, which didn't really feel that natural.
Hmm.
But what the third point, though, is that the daily consistent challenge, how your life can change in 50 days by just doing something every day that lends itself to a body of work, that people know you for doing that thing, and that crazy things happen off the back of that. Like you have 8 clients, like you had 8 clients all in one go. Now, admittedly,
Hmm.
that's way too many, but like
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's
I
crazy. You
know.
went from like 0 clients to 8 clients within 50 days just by
Yeah.
daily posting, showing the work that you want to get. That is mental.
I
That is
know.
so crazy. So anyway, I just think that's so cool to highlight and say back to you. Is that fair? Have I kind of summarized your points right? Is there anything that I missed?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like doing things the way that I felt like I had to do them. Like the boiled down takeaway that connects them all, I feel like is like doing things that I felt like I was like had to do to like please other people or please what I thought I wanted or whatever. And then actually just going and doing the thing and realizing, okay, like you're gonna put your unique spin on it either way. And like the way that you're actually gonna stick with doing something and enjoy it and make it your own is by doing it the way that you want to do it, and just letting that happen as opposed to like clinging so hard to like something that, you're realizing doesn't work for you. And that's why you don't want to even do it that way.
I feel like the more you are, the more you find the right people, the work that you want to get.
Totally.
You just, it's like, you know what? It's actually so tragic because I think my mum gave me this advice before I went to a school disco. She was like, just be yourself, Jack. And you know
I
what?
love
She
that.
was fucking right. She
I
was right.
know.
And I was like, shut up, mum. Spraying Lynx deodorant, Lynx chocolate all over me before I went to the disco, thinking I had to be cool. I'm not cool. You guys know that. Maya, you've spent 50 minutes with me. You know that I'm not cool. So, but what I'm trying to say is that, you're happier and more fulfilled and you're around people that are meant to be around you by being your weird self 110. And
Totally.
I don't know, I think that's the summary of this episode for me. I think it's so cool that you did this daily challenge, though. You've inspired me and others to do daily challenges, and I think there's so many benefits to doing them. You meet a load of people, you start a load of conversations, you get better at the thing that you're trying to get better at, you show the work you want to get, you're in a flow state because you're just playing. There's so many benefits to it. But can I just say thank you to you for encouraging me to do it, and thanks to Aaron Fleming for encouraging you to do it. And
Yes.
I hope that like more people who listen to this episode also do it because there's so many benefits to it. I've actually
Yeah.
changed my daily challenge though to a
I
weekly challenge
know.
where I
Yeah.
try and do a weekly website because I was trying to do a daily spline animation, and I just found myself making random stuff which didn't actually link with
Mm.
websites at all. And I was kind of like, okay, I need to try and spend a bit more time doing this. But I'm still doing the daily
Yeah.
challenge because of you. So not daily, just
Yay.
I'm still doing a challenge, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I found that like having a theme sort of or like a consistent thing made it easier to create every day and not just like make like random things that sometimes you were like, okay, I don't know if I needed to spend like an hour on that like directionless thing. I think also
yeah,
for what you're doing, it makes a lot of sense to do
yeah.
weekly. And it's just the
I'm
commitment that makes a difference, I think.
Yeah, I love. Okay, glad you say that. Wanted to check with the maestro whether you think that's a good idea, but I'm glad you think that that is a good idea. Are you ready for your final question, the most difficult question you will be asked this episode?
Yes. I did my research.
Okay. You did? Oh, so you already know what it is?
Yeah.
If anyone's listening, say it with me. Tell me what your next failure is going to be.
I think it's going to be not being prepared. I've rehearsed this. Not being ready for like lulls in work and stuff. Because like going in, being at a point where I'm like expanding, trying to expand what I'm doing and offer new things and be in new places and do that. I think there are a lot of times where there are going to be, or there's like expected lulls in freelancing in general. You know, you're not going to make the same amount of money each month. I went from, you know, having 8 clients to like none, and then I'm back up to a few. And like, it's hard to kind of like not only financially regulate that and like stress regulate, like not feeling like your career is ending every time you don't have work. But I think I might have to parse that one out a little bit more. But I think that's going to be my next fail. I think so.
I guess regulating the freelancing. It's you know what? We talk about failures on this podcast, and then we talk about what the next failures are going to be, and we literally talk about what we want to try and avoid happening or regulate happening, and then you know we may well end up doing it, even though we know. Isn't that the maddest thing? But
Yep.
either way, I hope that failure goes well for you. No, I'm sure that you will navigate it as best as possible in the time, you know, if it happens. And you're going to be as well prepared as you're ever going to be when it does happen, because that's just how life happens. It just hits you in the face and you've got to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Positive note to end on there, Maya. Thank you so much for sharing as vulnerably as you have. Thanks so much to Maya for coming on the podcast, and thanks so much to you lot for listening. Banging. This was a big reminder episode for me personally, because I did this 40-day spline challenge, but it wasn't in the right context. It wasn't in the website context. And interestingly, Maya did this daily challenge, which got her loads of clients, but they weren't always the right clients, and it took her a little while to find her groove, as it were. So, if there's anything that you've taken away from this episode, I think you'll probably agree doing a daily challenge is really powerful. Having a habitual practice of sharing your work online is going to help you, 1, get better, 2, meet loads of people, 3, maybe even get some clients. But it's also important that you don't burn out. It's important that you make work, that you show the work that you actually want to get, because otherwise it will become just a chore. And also showing the work in the right context. I went to the Webflow Conf, I'm so sorry, Webflow Conf is what I meant to say, on Monday and Tuesday of this week, and had a really good chat with Joseph Berry, and he said some of the work that you make isn't sexy. So you got to put effort into making it sexy. Get that printed on a t-shirt already, somebody. But yeah, I thought that was really good advice. You know, not all the work you make is going to be wow, but try and make it wow. You know, Joseph Berry talks about going from, you know, put in 100% of your work, of your effort into projects. No, put in 200%. He says go above and beyond. Explore different section variations, explore different animations. Try and make it 200% of your effort so that you make something truly great. And I think there's something in that with these daily challenges. Put the effort into the daily challenge, not just in creating the work, but also presenting the work, so that clients are like, oh diggity damn, I want to work with this person. And then maybe you'll end up with 8 clients. like Maya. That sounds way too many for doing web design and web development if you're a single Pringle, if you're a solo freelancer. But hey, even one or two, that would be incredible, wouldn't it? So that was a wrap. Sorry, I'm in a very weird mood today, as you can probably tell. Next week's episode, we have the almighty Zena Potter. She is a designer based in the UK. She is quietly crushing it. I think I'd put it like that. She's not one of those people that's on social every single day sharing her work. She's not necessarily one of those people that's doing a bazillion talks all over the world, but she is quietly doing great work for great clients. So I'm very excited to share that episode with you next week. Until then, Webflailers, keep on webflailing.